Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Peter Murphy begins now.
Good evening, everyone. We'll have the latest on the COVID-19 situation unfolding in the state's northwest shortly. But first tonight, police have been forced to draw their weapons on a man during a tense standoff in Montrose this morning. Officers swarmed on the alleged offender after reports of an armed robbery at a nearby pharmacy.
Closing in with guns drawn. Officers quickly back away as a robbery suspect stumbles forward with something in his hand. They place themselves at a safe distance as order after order goes ignored. He refuses to drop the alleged weapon. An officer aims his unmarked car into his path. The man jumps out of the way, then appears to stab at the driver's side window. Police keep backing away until the officer at the wheel brings the chilling standoff to an end. A knife is dropped to the ground and kicked out of the way. Officers swarm onto the alleged offender. 2 can be seen striking him. The dramatic incident was witnessed by shoppers watching from a nearby supermarket.
So we just poked our head out the door of the shop and there was a man that came out of the chemist with a knife. And it just looked like a bit of a zombie.
Staff at the pharmacy were shaken but uninjured.
Yeah, the staff responded fabulously well. They called the police. The police were here in minutes, which was fantastic.
A 20-year-old Berrydale man is now in custody. 2 officers received injuries during the incident. Police were not armed with tasers, but did deploy capsicum spray. A professional standards review will be undertaken.
Can I say, ultimately in this matter, there was an excellent outcome in regards to this. It was a peaceful outcome. It was an outcome that led to the arrest of the offender without him being injured.
The police union says incidents such as these do take their toll.
They can be extremely traumatising. Like, our members have very good training and very good equipment, but these sort of incidents, they happen on a regular basis. So there's a real accumulative effect on the mental health of our members.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
An emergency team of doctors and nurses is about to restart the Northwest Regional Hospital as the state reels from its 6th death and biggest rise in coronavirus cases in a single day. 165 people in Tasmania have now been diagnosed. Authorities are now saturating the region with testing clinics.
The pandemic's silent power reached the Mersey last night. A 91-year-old woman became the hospital's first fatality from the disease, while another 15 positive cases, all linked to the northwest, catapulted the state's total to 165.
I understand that people are frightened. I've spoken to enough people from the northwest coast to understand that. Yeah, I've got a family, I've got children myself, and to be frank, they're frightened as well.
Patients from the stricken Northwest Regional Hospital have been brought to the Mersey. The Latrobe Mayor acknowledges inheriting positive patients from Burnie causes some community concern.
I don't walk away from that for a minute. But in reality, patients have to be treated somewhere, and patients are people, they are members of our community. They have families, and we're not about to ostracise them and to lead them out on a limb.
A testing blitz is now in motion with a drive-through clinic launching in Burnie today at Parkside Medical, while another facility in East Devonport is under construction. That's expected to be open from Monday, and soon those needing treatment will be allowed back here. The outbreak's ground zero, the Northwest Regional Hospital, is about to receive a dose of the Defence Force. Around 50 ADF and AUSMAT personnel are restarting the emergency department. And you can see here some of the gratitude from the public, which of course just wants its hospital back in operation. The final stages of a deep clean are wrapping up, paving the way for an emergency workforce to take control tomorrow.
We will see quite a few more cases coming out of the northwestern outbreak.
As for the Mersey, saved in the 2000s, now a saviour during Burnie's shutdown.
I hope and expect that people feel vindicated, particularly those who were so heavily involved in lobbying to keep the Mersey.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
As the state fights to contain the outbreak on the northwest coast, the Tasmanian government has sought federal assistance to source vital equipment needed to keep some coronavirus patients alive. Extra ventilators are now being deployed to hospitals across the state in a bid to stop the death toll from rising.
The state's hospitals are ready should an influx of coronavirus patients arrive. It's hoped tight government restrictions will prevent a cluster of cases, like on the northwest coast, from arising. But the medical frontline is preparing for the worst. The federal government is providing a helping hand to ensure the states worst affected by the virus have access to a ventilator.
We have orders in place. Some of them have already arrived. We're also working with the federal government. The federal government is sourcing more ventilators from both suppliers internationally, but importantly, production within Australia.
The Royal Hobart Hospital is a recipient of the vital equipment.
We've increased our capacity to provide ventilation for seriously affected patients by a factor of somewhere between 2 and 3. And statewide we have, as I understand it, the capacity to ventilate 80 people.
But importantly, more staff will have the capability to use them.
That is the work that's undergoing with our workforce training to ensure that we have the clinical staff available and trained to be able to care for patients that require ventilation.
Hobart's Fountainside Hotel has been earmarked as a medi-hotel, should the need arise. Patients who test positive to COVID-19 but display mild symptoms can be cared for in a non-hospital setting.
The advantage is the monitoring, the cohorting of patients all with COVID disease means that we overcome the problems of anxiety and social isolation. And so there may be some people who would prefer that.
Even though the northwest coast is effectively in lockdown, the government and medical experts stress that we can't be complacent. Tasmania is not out of the danger zone yet, and further outbreaks in the state could still occur.
We could lose control of this very quickly at any time, and so we mustn't think that we've dodged a bullet.
I would imagine with the nature of something as infectious as coronavirus appears to be, that it would be a matter of time before we start seeing a surge in cases in the other regions that haven't been affected currently.
Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmania News.
Police are praising the overall behaviour of most Tasmanians this Easter, but say some are not still understanding the stay home message. Over the period, there were 41 arrests for non-compliance and multiple others told to leave where they were. Police will be ramping up their presence in the northwest to ensure all residents are complying with the regulations.
People have been really accommodating and willing to listen when they've been approached by police, and have been able to get greater understanding about doing their part.
With 43 police officers linked to the hospitals and forced into quarantine, officers from other regions will be deployed as backup. Tasmanian aged care provider Southern Cross Care says patient health and wellbeing is paramount, with new tight restrictions in place. In the wake of the pandemic, new measures such as FaceTime and Skype calls have been implemented so families can contact their loved ones in homes. But the aged care provider is calling for government support as the cost of providing care soars. Former Tasmanian Premier Will Hodgman has a new job as chair of the Australian Business Growth Fund. The $540 million fund is aimed at supporting small and medium-sized businesses, particularly as they recover from the impacts of coronavirus. The federal government put forward $100 million for the initiative alongside contributions from the major banks. Mr Hodgman was Tasmania's Premier for 6 years before he quit politics earlier this year. He will be the fund's inaugural chair. Tasmania Police is investigating an incident at Blackmun's Bay overnight where several gunshots were fired into a home on Tinderbox Road. The resident was home at the time but wasn't injured. Police say the offender and the resident are known to each other and there was no threat to the public. They're now wanting to speak with any witnesses, particularly anyone who saw a dark-coloured or silver sedan in the area at around 7 p.m. One of Tasmania's richest people, Jan Cameron, has had her court appearance delayed, with the coronavirus pandemic pushing back non-urgent court dates. The Kathmandu founder was due in the Hobart Magistrates Court today, facing criminal charges, accused by ASIC of failing to disclose her true interest in local infant formula business Bellamy's. She's now due to make her plea in July. Police have now charged a man 4 days after he allegedly held up a subway in Ulverston at knife point. The 42-year-old is accused of pulling the knife on a staff member and demanding money on Saturday evening. He has been charged with armed robbery and failing to comply with a direction from Public Health. Tasmanian youth advocates are calling for more support for young people experiencing homelessness as the pandemic continues. The state's youth network says vulnerable young people are at increased risk of contracting the disease as they don't have a stable, safe home. It's now calling for support services to have funding bolstered to accommodate the extra demand.
We know that there will be an increase in demand for these services. We don't know what that will look like yet. But there certainly will be an increased demand, particularly as we're heading into winter.
Currently in Tasmania, almost 40% of people experiencing homelessness are under 25 years old. A new app has been designed to better connect Tasmanian shoppers with their local producers. Named We Eat Local, the initiative aims to make it easier to access fresh, healthy food as hard-hit businesses are forced to adapt amid the coronavirus crisis.
It's the end of a lunchtime rush with a difference at Collide Whole Foods. The normally bustling business has seen a slow in foot traffic in recent weeks, one of thousands of organisations suffering from the fallout of the coronavirus crisis. Already adapting, they've moved online for their regulars.
We were getting a lot of phone calls and text messages for pre-orders, running in, running out, so we decided to do the online ordering platform where we deliver 3 times a day, or they can either click and collect in-store.
But help is on the way thanks to new app We Eat Local, designed to connect producers with customers, supporting them through the tough economic climate.
They range from very small scale producers, market gardeners, right up to the well-known independent grocery chains that we know that are all across Tasmania.
More than 200 suppliers and producers have signed up so far, and more will be added in coming weeks, aimed at encouraging people to shop locally and for businesses to collaborate. At Collide, they're partnering with supplier Longley Organic Farm to be a collection point for orders.
By doing that, there'll be a little notification if they've ordered from James from the farm, and then we can just do a free delivery, put their bag in with our delivery and get it off all together.
Working together to keep businesses up and running.
I think with having an empty city and everyone not feeling, everyone's quite vulnerable and disconnected, I think this is a way of being able to connect everyone.
Ebony Ablett, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening. Cloud and rain were seen across the state today. Burnie and Devonport reached 17, 16 about Hobart and Launceston. 23 was the state's top at Flinders Island, 17 about Smithton and Low Head, Strawn 14. On the close-up, an extensive low to mid-level cloud band is seen over the state. Further out, a frontal cloud band extends from South Australia's coast while cloud is seen over the central bight. Tomorrow shows a cold front over Tasmania and Victoria while a trough lies through central parts of Australia. North to northwesterly winds tomorrow 15 to 25 knots, swells up to 5 metres in the west and south and up to 1 metre in the north. A gale warning is current for western coastal waters from southeast Cape to Sandy Cape for west to northwesterly winds, and a strong wind warning for all remaining coastal waters including the southwest lakes. Tomorrow's forecast now a morning shower or 2 at Hobart, 16 across Cygnet and New Norfolk. In the north, Launceston 19, early showers at Devonport, Campbelltown 17. Burnie and Strawn tomorrow 16 and showers, Smithton showers easing. St Helens early showers and 19 across Swansea and Fingal. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast, Friday mostly fine about the northeast, showers elsewhere. Saturday showers about the western, central and southern districts, and Sunday showers in the west and far south extending to the north. Capital cities 25 and partly cloudy in Perth tomorrow, Melbourne expecting a shower or 2 and 29 in Sydney. And currently Hobart cloudy and 16, Launceston 14 and Devonport cloudy and 14. That's all for weather tonight, Murph.
Thanks very much for that, Jackie. And that's all our news for now too. I'll be back later with updates. Jackie will have the weather. Thanks for joining us. Good night.